Hi, welcome to Season 3, Episode 13 of The Weekly Wave. I'm Matthew Lyons.
No, I'm Aaron Johnson.
And our very special guest here today is new member of the Board of Selectmen, Mr. Alex Hagerty. How are you?
Oh, good. How are you? Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming down on our little show. It's we had you booked last year. I think 2 weeks we had until our interview, and then COVID happened and we got shut down. So it is awesome to finally have you here in person.
Well, it's awesome to be here.
So for my first question, when did you know you wanted to get involved in local government?
You know, growing up, my biggest passion was being an actor. Wanted to do theater and things like that with Mr. Shannon in the Abington drama department. But then I was in sixth grade. It was my sixth grade teacher, Mrs. Sullivan, she was like, hey, you know, Alex, I think you should run for student council. I threw my hat into the ring, didn't think I was going to win. I won, and then I became vice president of the student council the next week. So that was pretty cool. And I think from that point on, I really developed a love for serving my community and my fellow man. And then after, you know, school and everything like that, I decided to run and pull papers for the Abington Board of Health in 2018. I really wanted to get involved, helping our local businesses, making sure that they have a friend at the health department, and then just everything blew up from there, and from the Abington Health Department, from trash and recycling strikes. We had different regulations, plastic bag bans, and not to mention the whole COVID-19 pandemic, and really getting to appreciate serving my community and trying to make our community better, and during the COVID-19 even safer.
Awesome.
So you served on the Board of Health for 3 years, correct?
Correct.
3 years now. You just made the jump to selectman. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
So it's only been a couple weeks since you're kind of settling in. What has been like the biggest jump or the differences or the challenges you've been facing so far? Do you think it's very different, or do you think it's more of the same?
It's definitely a different position. So I've been 2 weeks in a day, but who's counting? No, you know, and I really have to thank the residents of Abington and the voters, you know, for entrusting in me to serve them and be their voice on Glenowitz Way. You know, and it's an honor and a privilege, but you know, it's definitely different than the Board of Health. You know, the health department, we're really dealing with public health and public safety, just from the health view of it. But now being on the Board of Selectmen, we oversee everything in the town, you know, trying to make sure negotiations, you know, for trash and, you know, or trash contracts, or actually I should say police and fire contracts, and, you know, road development, working with DPW, Rockland Joint Waterworks, and everything under the sun, the Council on Aging. So it's definitely taking on a lot more, but I think the community involvement in this position is definitely worth the while.
You.
So that increase in responsibility, was that driving motivation in you going for this position?
For me, I mean, it scared me a little bit. I'm not going to lie. But I think what drove me to really run for selectman was last year, and the whole COVID-19 pandemic. I realized, you know, with everything shutting down, businesses shutting down, schools shutting down, really life shutting down, and now that we're coming out of the pandemic and, you know, people are getting vaccinated, you know, and things are starting to reopen, you know, Abington Celebrates is going to have, you know, Flag and Founders Day next month. I'm so excited for it. You know, fingers crossed for fireworks, but, you know, it's still a no at this point. But, you know, I think it's... What was the question? I'm sorry, I got sidetracked.
No, that's totally fine. Just what were the driving factors in you running for this position on the Board of Selectmen?
Oh yes, that's why I got a little excited there. But what really drove me for it was the COVID-19 pandemic, and thinking that, you know, our town really needs strong leadership coming out of this pandemic. You know, working with our local businesses, working with all of our departments, our school department, you know, all the departments. To really come out of this pandemic stronger than ever before and really be able to bounce back. We're looking at other towns surrounding us, and they're not as fortunate as we are, and really be able to bounce back in the way that we are, whether with CARES Act money, but also making sure we have a balanced budget. We're going to have a balanced budget this year without cutting any services, for FY22, and I think that's a huge testament to our town leadership, and I want to make sure we keep that moving forward.
Thank you.
So I watched your forum before the election, and what really stood out to me was your stance on the development of Union Point. That you want to add revenue, but I'm gonna let you take it away. What are your plans for Union Point?
Well, I think for me, definitely having a conversation with the developers of Union Point. Abington hasn't had any development in that area at all. Weymouth is really the only one that's really developing in that area, and granted they have it for residential right now, and Abington is only zoned for commercial. So anything that Union Point builds over in our section of Union Point can only be commercial. And I think, we have the potential for bringing in millions of dollars in the 40 acres that we have in Union Point. When originally Union Point was being discussed, and actually it was Southfield, I think, at that point, they were talking about movie theaters, restaurants, arenas, different things. I was talking to Kevin Tocci about it on his show, having a drive-in. Back in the day, Abington used to have a drive-in, right on the Abington-South Weymouth line. I think it would definitely be beneficial that we mobilize in that area.
All right, thank you.
Wow, that's super exciting.
I know.
Oh my gosh, I hope this moves along, because that sounds awesome. What has been your proudest achievement in the town of Abington so far?
My proudest achievement has to be when I was serving as vice chairman of the Abington Board of Health. And out of left field, we got a trash and recycling strike from Republic Services. And, again, it took Abington, Rockland, and Marshfield completely by surprise. And, I was on the phone with our health department and Republic Services, making sure that Republic Services was keeping their contracted promise with us to make sure that trash and recycling was being picked up. And then when it wasn't being picked up, I was driving around town, taking the addresses, taking down the streets that were missed, and really hounding, Republic Services, hey, we pay for this service, pick up our trash and recycling. And really it was a team effort on the whole health department and the town itself. And then, even when the trucks couldn't get out, we thought of new and inventive ways to make sure that we kept our streets clean. We opened up the compost site on Groveland Street and rented a couple of dumpsters from Republic Services and blasted it out on social media. It says, okay, if people, your trash and recycling mainly was for trash that hasn't been picked up, come by the compost site, dump it, and whatnot. We had everybody and anybody coming down to the compost site, getting rid of the trash and stuff like that, and hearing just from the residents, thank you for doing this. Thank you for caring to get this picked up, because otherwise it was 50-50 whether the trash was going to get picked up. Mm-hmm. And then not only that, just keeping the people informed of what was going on with the strike and what we were doing to keep the streets safe. And that, for me, has always been my proudest.
That's fantastic.
I'm gonna go off what you just said. You said keeping people informed. I was doing some research on your campaign. That is your biggest selling point, transparency and keeping people informed. Would you say that that's your most important value you have towards your campaign?
For me?
Yes.
Absolutely. I think the better informed our community is, the stronger our community is going to be. Whether it was COVID-19 numbers, whether it was when we were doing the clinics, or trash information, or rabies clinics when we were doing them, everything under the sun in the health department. I'm sure people got tired on social media of me posting out different things about the health department, but keeping people informed is how we're gonna have a better town. And I think I'm excited to do that for the Board of Selectmen and really now be an advocate for everything and everything in Abington. You know, I think that's important, keeping the community involved.
Thank you.
So aside from Union Point, which again, I hope that happens, that's awesome. What are your future plans for the town of Abington?
For me, so I need to have conversations with, I'm looking forward to having conversations with Congressman Stephen Lynch about possible infrastructure bills on the federal government coming down, so we can work on our roads, get more funding for our roads and improve our infrastructure. I'm more than happy to have those conversations with Congressman Lynch. And then not only that, just, I mean, also bringing in businesses to town. I'm really developing our commercial base. We have a lot of empty space. We have a lot of empty commercial space in Abington, and I think we could definitely be mobilizing on that and really striving to be better, to bring in more revenue for the town and really lessen the tax burden on the taxpayers. You know, we always hear from. If there's one thing that I heard, you know, going on the campaign trail in this cycle, was, you know, people talking about property taxes and how high they are, and I want to do everything I can under the sun to really lower the burden.
Thank you.
While you were on the campaign trail, I saw you and your signs everywhere throughout Abington. I mean, like every corner, I saw Alex Hagerty. How did you create such a big and just like consistent campaign? Because I didn't see, like, compared to everybody else who was in the running, I feel like yours was just overwhelmingly like there. How did you create that infrastructure? How did you do that?
It was a lot of grassroots. Definitely a lot of grassroots, and really reaching out to the community and having conversations with residents, and really being personable, and, you know, hearing them out. Like, you know, my biggest thing that when I was campaigning was, you know, we see politicians on the federal and the state level, they just talk. And for me, you know, talking is good, but you need to back it up, and you also need to hear from the residents. You also need to be able to be their voice and hear what they want to see the town moving forward. And that was the biggest thing for me, and it really resonated with people. And, you know, I'm always true to, you know, fighting for the residents of Abington, you know, and everyone, the first responders, the students, the seniors, the taxpayers. So that was my driving force. Not only that, I knew I had an uphill battle with the election, so I wanted to make sure that I got my message out and really, you know, express to people, like, this is what I'm all about. This is what I'm all about for a better future, a better Abington. You know, and thankfully our message worked, and you know, we continue to work on our message and really do great things for Abington.
Thank you.
Congrats again on the new position. I know you'll do great things for the town of Abington, and thank you for doing this interview with us.
Oh, thank you. It's my pleasure.
Thanks for watching. Tune in next week for a brand new episode of The Weekly Wave.
Make sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms at The Weekly Wave and The Green Wave Gazette.
Stay safe.
Goodbye, everybody.